When we look at this woman, which the Bible presents to us, and speaks in details about her life, we learn what God looks for in the human being, what God is looking for. When we look at Hannah, we understand that God is looking for truth, is looking for sincerity, and an individual surrender, and not a collective one. That usually happens when a person is affiliated to a religion. What happens to religion? We have been speaking a lot about religion, whatever the religiosity is, regardless of the label, because in the end it's all the same. What happens when someone joins a religion? They have that sensation of belonging, that sensation of fulfillment, like when they go to their temple, when they fulfill their rituals, the rituals that are expected from that religion, when they do what everyone else does when they take part on that meeting. Okay, I'm doing what is expected from me. And this is reinforced by collective rituals. So the person feels that will be bringing God's favor to them. And what we see in the Word of God through Hannah's story is that this didn't work. For her, it didn't work. And it didn't work in a general way. Well, we have many examples of this throughout the whole scriptures, in the Old and in the New Testament. But let's focus on the story of Hannah. Why didn't it work for her? Because she was in a very religious family. Both the husband, the children, not hers, but the children of the other wife, and this other wife was also religious, Penina. Everybody in the house was religious. But in that house, suffering ruled. Which means, if everybody was religious, how could rejection rule? It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense that a home filled with religious people may have rejection, provocation, envy ruling there. Envy, selfishness. But it's what happened in Hannah's life, in Hannah's house. The husband, only thinking about her, took a second wife. This second wife was waiting to be the first, started to provoke the first wife, Hannah. The husband compensated because later he realized that he brought a problem to his life, to his home. So he tried to compensate with gifts to his first wife, to the children. Let's go to the temple, let's go to the temple. But the situation remained the same. So Hannah, in her humiliation, in the limit of her pain, what did she do? She did what we all must do. She broke away from that religiosity. She broke away from that system, the religious collective system of obligations and rituals and traditions. And she was truthful. She went over all that, which were rules from the religion. And who did she go to? She went directly to God. She went to God and she poured out her soul. She stripped herself of any pride, anything, and she poured her heart and soul to God. And she said what she should have said. A pure and sincere prayer, a prayer of a bitter woman filled with anguish that she could barely speak. Someone who was not understood by her husband, the priest who was there when she was praying. She was misunderstood by everyone but by God. So when she poured her soul, her bitterness, and took from out of her everything that she was absorbing throughout all those years that she suffered in her house, when she took that out of her and placed in God's hands, she arose from the prayer where she went to the temple. She arose already light, feeling light, because it had worked. For the first time, she did what God expects the human being to do, which is to treat him as a person, to treat him as a father. She treated the Lord as a father. She didn't have intimacy with God. As I said before, it was not normal to do what she did. She was condemned by her action before the religious ones. But what was at her reach, what she could do, she did. And she offered to God her bitterness. She emptied her heart. She gave to God what she wanted the most, because what was upsetting her? Not to have children. So she asked the Lord, Lord, take this shame out of me, and if you give me a child, I'll return him to you. So she understood, if God gives me what I want the most, it's fair to give him what I want the most. So she surrendered to God. At the same time that she asked for it, she gave it to him. She surrendered it to him. She was no longer stuck in that fact. I don't have a child, because she understood, even if God gives me, I'll give him back. I want him to take my shame away. So when she gave up on what she had learned before, then there was a deliverance. First of all, an inner one. She was free from the bad feelings, the bitterness, and the heavy weight she was carrying. She was not yet pregnant, but inside her, she was free from that evil. So she surrendered what her rival was mocking her, ridiculing her. She surrendered it to God. What does that mean? When we surrender something to God, it's as if when we are giving something to another person. If you have a package, you have a heavy box in your hands, and you're carrying it in the bus because you have to deliver it to your uncle on the other side of the city. You go in the bus with that heavy box in an uncomfortable way, and you're walking on the street with the box, leaving the bus. You get to his house. Uncle, here is the parcel. Oh, my nephew, thank you so much for it. And you leave it there. What do? You go back home relieved. Duty fulfilled. I gave the box to my uncle. You don't take it back home. You left it there. To surrender it to God is to do the same. Is to leave in God's arms what you have been carrying. You have been carrying humiliation, the words that the person has spoken about you, the grudges, the persecution. You have been carrying your frustrations. Oh, my life should have been in another level. I didn't reach what I wanted to reach. I lost it all. All that you have been carrying, when you surrender it to God, you leave it with Him. You leave it there. And the moment you do so, that is no longer with you. It's no longer your problem. It belongs to God now. This is what Hannah did. She surrendered her problem to God indeed. So when she went back home, she was no longer carrying that pain. Even her face changed, because she no longer had the pain that was visible in her face. As many, they have that in their face, with dissatisfaction, bitterness, that was left in God's arms. This is surrender. Maybe you have never surrendered to God what you should have. You never gave to God the loved person you lost. You lost a child, a husband, a wife. You lost a job. You lost someone, your mother, your father. They are gone. They left, or they are dead, or they give up on the relationship. The person is gone. And you are suffering until today. Do you know why? Because you haven't surrendered this person to God. So you keep hurting yourself, because it is in your hands. The day you give this pain, this bereavement to God, you stop suffering. Maybe you have never given the bereavement pain, the frustrations, things you wanted to have achieved and you didn't. Then you become bitter, and then you say, every time that this day of the year comes, I remember what happened. At this time of the year, I remember that I don't have what I wanted. You haven't surrendered the frustration. You remain anxious, sad, at times even with God, sad with God, blaming God because He didn't give you what you wanted. So this is what we all must learn through Hannah's story. This is something individual. The pastor won't do that for you, neither the church. Nor even God will do that. It is you who must give. You must give your pain, go to the altar and say, listen, God, I am tired of carrying this, being this bitter, hard person to deal with. I will no longer cry. From now on, this is yours. It is yours, Lord. I give it to you. Even what I want the most, I give it to you. If you give me, it will be to honor you. But if you don't give me to, it will no longer hurt me. I will no longer suffer. When you surrender this to God, you will stop suffering. And it's interesting how this is the same for everything in life. When we take our heart from something, when we stop being anxious, things happen naturally. But as long as we are obsessed, going after something, the more we go after it, the more that goes away from us. Learn to surrender. Let's learn from Hannah this true surrender to God. And when there's a surrender, naturally, there is relief and rest. If today's video helped you and you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you may do so now. See you later.